Good morning or good afternoon, Heritage Village. It's nice to visit with you again. My name is Marcia Brooker. I am very, very happy today to have you meet and learn a little bit more about Carol and Bob VanTassel. Welcome to Heritage Village again and again.
Thank you.
It's really nice to many people. Your names are familiar, but maybe they haven't associated your faces with it, you know. So now is a good opportunity for people in the village to get to know you a little bit better. One of the things that sometimes we do when we do these interviews is talk a little bit about what brought you to Heritage Village. So I'd like you to speak a little bit about that. How did you get here? How long have you been here?
We've been here going on a little over 14 years. We stumbled on Heritage Village, quite honestly. We lived in Pleasantville, New York prior to coming here, and we're looking for a place with a little less maintenance. And again, we were looking probably in the lower portion of Connecticut or a lower portion of New York State. Our last idea, well, quite honestly, was to get involved with a condominium complex, being that we had both been involved in a homeowners association before. And we were traveling around, and one of the real estate agents, after showing us a number of homes that required a lot of maintenance, had suggested that we might want to try Heritage Village. So what do we do?
So we came up here, and we stopped at Heritage Village Real Estate, and a very nice lady, and I can't not remember her first name, but her last name was Pfau, P-F-A-U, and she started showing us some units here, and Bob kept saying, no, that's not big enough, no, we can't move there because he builds model airplanes, and he wanted to have a space to build model airplanes. So we went back home and we thought, well, we'll just do certain things to the house. We'll get somebody, we needed a new deck, and we needed to do some other improvements in the house that we were in. And we'll get someone to come in and do the lawns and that sort of thing. And we had just decided that, and the real estate agent called us and said, I have the perfect place for you. It is absolutely everything that you want. It is on the market, just came on the market. Get up here as fast as you can, because it's not going to take long before it's gone. So we came up, and the rest is history. And here we are.
Okay.
We came up in the morning, and by right after lunch, we settled on it.
Boy, that's knowing what just is the right thing at the right time.
That's
it. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
When you came here, how long did it take you to decide that you wanted to be involved in either a club or an organization, or were your interests more in a civic, maybe a town-wide kind of thing? Just speak to
2 weeks.
I love it.
Yeah, we moved in just before Thanksgiving, and I'd had a background in insurance and driving and so on, and I knew they were looking for volunteer drivers for the buses. At that time, our buses were all manned by volunteers, and I got involved in that right away. I think it was probably within a month of moving in, while we tried to settle in and find out what the town was all about. And it didn't take us long. I think Carol...
Took you a month, Bob, and it took you 2 weeks?
Well, what happened was we predetermined, before we came here, we determined that we knew that there were a lot of activities here and a lot of clubs. I had never belonged to a club before, ever in my life. So we determined anyway that when we came here, we were going to join in, we were going to get active and involved in various activities. So the first activity that we did, which was about 2 weeks after we moved in here, the New Villagers Club was having their holiday party. So we decided that we were going to go to that. And I remember calling Barbara Wilkinson and saying to her, well, you know, we'd like to go, but where do we get the tickets? And how do we get down to activities from where we live? So she gave me directions, and sure enough, I got down there, paid for my tickets, our tickets, and we went to the holiday party. And at the holiday party, the then president of the New Villagers Club said, well, you know, we're having our next board meeting in January. She gave the date. And she said, we're always looking for people to come and sit in on the board meetings and give us ideas, or just, you know, come and listen. So I did. And she determined at that point that I was going to make a good president, and that I should be the next president of the New Villagers Club. And I said, but I never belonged to a club before. I wouldn't know, I don't even know how to lead a meeting or anything. You know, she said, you learn that. That'll all come. And so in April, they voted me in as the president of the New Villagers Club, and that's the beginning. I was president of the New Villagers for the 3 years that we were allowed to be in the club. Mm-hmm. And then I wasn't even finished with the presidency of the New Villagers Club when the Women's Club tapped me to be president of the Women's Club, and I said I need some time off. So I took a year, and then of course they came back at me again. Right. And so then I was voted in as the president of the Women's Club.
I know that both of you are quite the photographer, and I remember seeing one of the first pictures that I remember that one of you took. I think, Carol, you took it, of the deer off your backyard, yep. Off your back patio. Yeah. And you've been involved with photography for a while. Was that always something that you were interested in?
I've always been interested in photography. Never even, I can't even consider myself an amateur. I used to go out and snapshots. Used to shoot 35 millimeter of our vacations and our travels, and but never looked at it in competition, or whether it was a good photo or not. I was out to please myself. And what happened was, when we moved up here, I brought my cameras, needless to say, and Carol was out walking one day, and she came running home, or driving home, I don't know which, and she said, let me have one of your cameras. She said, I just saw this beautiful bird down in the pond. And she went off, and I showed her basically how to use the camera, and she came back with a shot, and she thought it was the most beautiful shot in the world. We've since learned, when it was not a professional shot, but to her it was great. Hey. And that hooked her.
In the eyes of the beholder, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what all photography really is.
Personal satisfaction is just to be able to take a photograph that is pleasing. That's number one. Going into the competitions in the camera club is good in the fact that we have judges that come in from other clubs. They're just photographers who belong to other clubs. Mm-hmm. And they come in and they do critiques on our photographs, whatever we submit. And by doing that, that's where I really learned how to take a good photograph, or what not to do to take a bad photograph. So so I've learned a lot over the years, and it's allowed me the creativity that I didn't know that I had. In other words, everything that I look at now, I look at through the eyes of the camera. Well, that would be a really good picture. That's a really, that's a nice place to take a photograph. Mm-hmm. Which before, it was a place.
When you were president, how did that happen? How did you finally reach the pinnacle of the presidency?
By accident. It was all accident, really. I had an involvement, and Carol did also, in our previous, we had a summer home in Copiague, New York, and both of us at one time or another were president of the association. And when we came here, I looked at our representative who was from our condo, who was retiring, and I said, well, I could do that job as a trustee, and I got on our condo board and was elected trustee, and went immediately from trustee. Ted Willerson called me in, who was a president at the time, and said, how would you like to run for vice president? And I said, well, I'm just becoming a trustee. He said, well, you have a good knowledge of, how to handle political situations, and also a good background in running meetings. And so I thought it over, and I was way up in the air as to whether I wanted to do it or not, quite honestly. And he asked me to come down to his office, and Carol had said to me, are you going to do it or not? And I said, I don't know. And I made up my mind on my way down to the meeting house that I would do it, and I told Ted yes. And both Bill Wilhelms ran for treasurer that year, and I ran for vice president, and we both were elected. And I said, I'm only going to do this for 1 year. I said, Ted, Ted had already, that was his third term. I said, if you're going to step down, I'll do the presidency, but I'm not going to continue, as vice president. Not that I had an ego thing, but I just, vice president sometimes can be a little bit of a boring job. Mm-hmm. not as active. The new presidents and vice presidents are more active, both of them. But at that time, there was not a lot for the vice president to do. So I did that for 1 year, and then was elected president. And after 1 year, I said, time to hang it up. It's contrary to a lot of beliefs. There's a lot of work that the president does in this organization, and there are long hours. It was nothing to work 70 or sometimes 80 hours a week, phone calls at home or attending meetings, both here and in town, representing Heritage Village. And after 1 year, I said, it's time to turn it over to somebody else. As president here, I always felt that I should not take a position. So I used to, meet with the trustees sometimes one-on-one and get their opinions. I used to attend a lot of condo meetings, not to preside over them, but just to listen what was going on and get a feel of what was happening. At that time, there was a great sentiment to keep the men's club and the women's club. Mm-hmm. However, the state of Connecticut said you can't do it. So that happened after I was out. Right. But during the time that I was in there, I was really going with the pressures that were exerted on me from the people that were here at the time. Mm-hmm. There's been a big changeover in attitudes and so on since that time. But that was the prevailing sentiment.
Carol, I know that you did not just concentrate your efforts in the newcomers and the women's club and the photography club, and I know that you give tours sometimes, or at one time you did give tours for new residents and that kind of thing. Tell us what you currently are involved in.
Oh, gee. Well, I still do the orientations for the new villagers, and we make the kits as well. So there are a couple of people that are involved in making the kits. That's Ann Rankin and Teddy Augustine and myself. So once a month we go up to the Adams room in the meeting house where we have all of our papers and things, and we make up the kits. And then once a month we have the orientation for the new villagers. And Teddy Augustine and I do that now, but originally it was Marion Parker. Now, Marion Parker has been in the village since the very beginning, and she is currently 103 years old. And she is still in charge of this group. And I still, after the orientation and after we make the kits, I still call her and tell her, how many people we had and so on and so forth, and how many kits we made. So I keep, she's involved because she doesn't get out very much anymore because of her age. So I still do that, and I'm also involved with the Southbury Celebration Committee, which is through the town, and I'm the liaison from Heritage Village to the Southbury Celebration Committee. And we have that's the once a year celebration that's usually either the end of September, beginning of October. And it's at Southbury Training School at Stibbs Field. And they have food vendors and they have music, and then the final of the evening is the fireworks, which is always wonderful.
They also run buses from the village, so that people
They run a bus from the village, right? So, and also this year, I think they're going to have one from the Parks and Rec Department as well. Or if they don't get enough people to sign up for both, they'll just run one bus for both sites. This year, Southbury is celebrating its 225th anniversary of the founding of Southbury. So it's a special celebration this year as well. It's the 29th of September with rain date of the 30th. So it's Saturday night or Sunday if it's raining.
All right. And Bob, I know that I remember you making reference to doing something with the fire department at one time. Is that still something that you participate in?
Yes. I've been with the White Plains Fire Department. I guess I'm still considered an honorary member for almost 55 years, and life member down there. But when we first moved in here, we were having some work done on our condo, and one of the plumbers said to me, he said he saw my fire department paraphernalia and asked me if I would like to come down to a Monday night work session by the fire department, and I did, and I got hooked. At the present time, I'm with the fire police. I don't run into burning buildings any longer. I'm more of a hazard in there than a help. So but I direct traffic and make sure that, try to keep our participants, our firemen safe, that they don't, they get very fixed on fighting a fire, and sometimes they'll step out into traffic or, and help them with getting tools and that kind of thing. And but anyway, joining the fire department, again, with my background, I became secretary almost immediately. Secretary in any organization is a job that nobody seems to really relish. So I became secretary, and then assistant treasurer, and finally I was president of the fire department for, I guess it was the better part of 3 years. That's you can have two-year terms, I believe. I'm still active, not as active as I once was. There's a lot of changes being made in safety and so on in the fire department, so that I don't run out to every alarm any longer. But certainly, if there is a large fire where it needs people support people, I get involved. We don't go up. I don't go up on 84 anymore. When I first used to, when I first joined, we were allowed to take our personal cars up on 84, and they stopped that. And then we were allowed to go up on apparatus, and it's just a dangerous situation up there, and it's better left up to the people that are more qualified than myself to handle it, quite honestly.
If you had to tell people that are just moving here, we're having an open house soon, and that it's really hopefully for prospective buyers or people who are interested in the village in one way or another. What would each of you say about life in Heritage Village? We're using there's a new campaign, there's no place like Heritage Village, and what would you say to someone who is sitting out there, who has just moved here and is maybe wondering, now that everything is back and in place in the condo and the pictures are up, and they're sitting and they're thinking, oh my gosh, it would be good to get involved in something. What would each of you say to them?
Well, I think the first thing that a person should do when they move in here is come to the orientation, because at the orientation they learn more about the village and what's available in the village. I think that, first of all, I think it's the best move that Bob and I could have made at the time, and still is the best situation for us. I think people should be coming in here, not just to move into a condominium, because you could do that any place in the country, but to move in here because it's a way of life. And that's the way this place was originally sold. It's a way of life. Once all the boxes are out of your house, and as you said, everything is in place, get out and get involved. There are so many opportunities here. I tell people you could be out all day, every day, if you really wanted to. You don't ever have to be home, because there's something going on here all the time. Get out, get involved, and enjoy. And that's basically what Bob and I did. I mean, you know, being involved in this various groups in the Women's Club, and I brought a lot of the people from the New Villagers Club into the Women's Club when I became president. So there were a lot of people like Betty Clare and Beverly Seidel and Barbara McLaughlin. Barbara McLaughlin was she was the go-to person on the board, because I wasn't really quite sure what I was doing. So when I was president of the New Villagers Club, Bob gave me all of the basics, you know, the Robert's rules and how to run a meeting. But Barbara McLaughlin was the one who really kept my toes to the fire, and I really appreciated all the help that I got from her. But Nettie LeCastre was on. She came from the New Villagers Club onto the board. Marie Gaffney came later on, because she was the president in the New Villagers Club after I left.
All right.
But there were, you know, I think just getting involved, I think that is the way to go when you come into the village. If you're just going to sit in your condominium, you are just definitely not going to be a happy camper. Just not.
I think the other thing is to go to your condo meetings. I think that's very, very important. And go not to take over, but go to learn. I think so many people come in with good ideas, and I think we're always open to good ideas. But unfortunately, some of these good ideas have been thought about 3 or 4 times, and we've already gone through them, you know. I think a lot of people come in with the idea of maybe changing the village, and we are always in the process of change. I mean, this community grows and changes, but it moves slower, perhaps because of our age. We in Heritage Village, it seems to me, can focus on one thing at a time, one major change at a time. And if we concentrate on that and do it well, I think we're on the right track, quite honestly. But get involved. You know, don't wait till you hang up the pictures. The pictures, you know, they'll be there tomorrow.
It's like housework; it'll always wait for you, right?
Yeah. There's so much out there. Go out and enjoy. I mean, explore the things that you wanted to. Maybe deep in your heart, you always wanted to.
Well, this has been a really wonderful, wonderful opportunity for me to get to know you guys both a little bit better, but also for the village. And keep up the good work, keep up the activities, stay healthy, and I'm sure many people are going to say hello to you that have never said hello to you before after this. Thanks a lot, Heritage Village. We'll see you soon.